So here's what I'm making today. This was a project I made back in, well, I have a couple of projects, February of 2020. And it was for Eileen Hall. And I made this organizer box. And the idea was to put my 4x6 cards that I make, just to have somewhere for them to go, or even postcards, whatever. I also made this cute little book, but it has nothing to do with this. So what I thought was, for this release, this is my Maker Forte Eileen Hall release project. Eileen's come out with stamps recently. The first set was September's, and I don't have them all because I'm teaching a class with them, and I've pulled them for the class. But she's coming out with a monthly stamp set. And this was September, was the primary postage stamp idea with these little images, and also came out with the damask. So that was really fun. And then a button card, a vintage button card set as well, which I don't have right now. This is the new set. Drumroll, please. Woohoo. So we have this doodling images, and these are based on a class that Eileen used to teach, or still teaches, but doing her fabulous doodles that we love. And it's got a great quote. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. This is the next release for the postage stamp series that she's doing, and it is called Snail Mail Inspiration. The idea being that every month there will be an add-on to this stamp set, and that these images will fit inside of these little boxes, which is so fun. I'll show you some stuff I've done with it, but I'll have some links below also to my blog post and to our Facebook fan group. We did a live where we released these, and there's so many great inspirational things from the design team. So if you get a chance to join the Facebook fan club, it's really worth it. There's just tons of inspiration. It's a great group of encouraging people that love to make art and play with Eileen Hall things. So my idea was, I want a box to put these in. Of course I do. And look at this. It's the perfect size. I figured what I'll do is I'm going to make this. I'm going to redo the same thing, same project I have. So there'll be a blog post with all of the information you need and step out photos as well of how to make this. And then I'm just going to copy myself and using Eileen's stamps and the 49th and Market paper that I'm about to show you to make a handy dandy box. And then maybe next month I'll have another box that might fit these ones separately. I'm just saying, that's a sneak peek. Not sure if it'll be a video, but I just love making these boxes, and this one is they're just so fun. So let's tell you what you need to make this. So I'll flip the camera down just so you can see some of the papers, because they're just great and they're so pretty. And the only thing is, these papers are really heavy, as you'll see. So what I'm going to do is adjust my project to make a little more sense with the heavy papers, rather than trying to have the paper bend inside the box. So I'll give you a peek at what we're making. I'm copying myself, which is always a fun way to go, with a new spin on it. All right, here we go. So this is the 49th and Market. It is called, what is it called? Vintage Artistry in the Leaves. And the paper pack comes with 6 double-sided papers, and then the 2 laser cut die sheets, which I showed you. Oh, and you also have an extra pattern on this side. This is an extra pattern. It has So Thankful at the bottom. So I got that. And then I also got the 6x8 collection pack. It comes in a plastic. I took it out, but I'll show you that as well. But the thing I love about the 49th and Market papers is they're really thick. Like, the quality is really good. So for example, making journals with them is just fantastic. And look at the imagery on this paper. It's just so pretty. I mean, really. What does that have? No, that just has the butterflies, and I love poppies. Just love, love, love the poppies. And this is the flip side, and this does have some words at the bottom. So that's kind of fun. And some leaves. Even the coordinating paper on the back is so, because, you know, it's got that grungy, like there's a little bit of typewriting here. And like this one, you know, it's got kind of a, texture. And this has a different, this has the strip. I love using these little strips at the bottom. And then it looks like some cards and another really pretty one with some imagery at the bottom as well. So that's what I'm going to be using to make my project. I also got the 6x8 collection, and there's 36 sheets, 2 of each. There's so many, I'm not going to go through them all, but it's the same sort of nice thick paper, and just, it's, you know, we have to have it all, don't we? Just love those. So some of them are, I think that's the list almost, oh, and this has a frame in the middle. It's kind of, I bought this because I had to have it. Love the imagery, but also I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Well, I'm going to make this box for starters, and then I'm going to figure out, I mean, look at that. Figure out what else I can do with it. So some of them, it seems to be, this is horizontal. This is the same pattern in a vertical. Interesting, or pattern-ish, same sort of. Ooh, and then cards, and then 4x6 cards. We know how we like our cards. Okay, and then we have, looks like a bonus piece of paper. Then these, of course, you can cut these up as well. And then look at this. So this is the same ones as on the big set, just shrunk down. Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of fun things. Yeah, 2 each of the laser sheets. All right, so let's see what we're gonna do. I'm also gonna bring this in. I did just put this in a box for now, but I also bought the die cut set. I think, I don't know if I have the card from the paper. Oh, I do. I kept it. Where did I put it? So they also have this 68 pieces, and look at all that great imagery. So I just put those in a box for now. But, you know, like there's all these little slide frames and tickets. It's just an autumn wonderland of images. Words, and then you get the bigger pieces, but look at all of it. Words and tickets and more words. I mean, how fun? How fun is that? Pretty much everything you need to make a project, I guess, is the best way to put it. Some postcards, and then some bigger imagery as well. And then this awesome frame. So we got a lot to work with. Here's some of the things you're going to want to make this. So first off, you want the die. The die is the scallop box with lid die. This is the packaging, or a copy of the packaging. I don't have the packaging. For example, this is what it makes. This was a project I did, and I will link this below if you're interested in making the box itself. But this is what's great about Eileen's dies. She always tries to be able, so you can create at least 3 things with every die. This is what the original, this is what the box shape is. And then, again, to just give you a hint, I've already lost the stamp sets. How did I manage to do that? I don't know if this happens to you in your craft room, but you're going along and then things just disappear. Here we go. I don't know. Look at this. Haha. Just saying. Might be a sneak peek right there. But that, you get the idea. This is what the scallop box is. This was a project I made with it. Just love it. So fun. So dangly and fun. And we're going to use this die in a different way. And then you're going to want some either Easy Cut adhesive. Eileen has her own through Thermoweb, and it's great because it's 6x12. You put it on, it fits perfectly on the mat board. I'm out of it, so they also make it in the 6x6 size. So I'll be using that today. And then you're going to want some red liner tape, and you're going to want mat board. And Sizzix makes the mat board, and it comes in 6x12. So we'll be using that, or 6x13 actually. So yeah, so we'll be using that, and then of course the paper. So let's get started. So this is, I've already cut, I just cut for ease sake. I will also link to, if you've never die cut before, I'll link to another video that shows you how to run the die cut through the machine. But this is basically what you get from running one pass with the scallop box die. It comes with the box. This is one piece of the box, and then the scallop and another scallop that goes right here that can fit, that can make it a layered so it has a border. And then also it comes with this handy dandy plaque, which interestingly enough goes with one of Eileen's stamps, which I will also show you in a second. So that's what you get. So we're going to cut 2 pieces. Now, if I was using a lighter paper, as I did in this example, I would adhere the paper down ahead of time. This was Stamperia paper or Stamperia paper, and it's a much lighter weight. So I didn't mind that. It folded nicely. I just adhered my paper down, and in order to do that so that it ends up on the inside of the box, I put it paper side up. So this is the inside of my box. This would be paper side up. The crease or the outside or the front is paper side down. So paper side up gave me the paper on the inside, but I wanted to just decorate the outside, and that's what we're going to do here as well. So the challenge being, because this paper is really thick, I just decided that I was going to just cut my paper. If it was on the outside, it would work perfectly fine because the scoreboard would have scored and cut the paper and it wouldn't be an issue. But because it's on the inside, I would get this, which again, if it's a thinner paper, it usually works out fine. So what I've done, and I like to do this for a lot of my dies, I've made just sort of a window, and this gives me an idea of the size that I'm using. So I've just taken a piece of acetate, I've cut it the size I've wanted, I've written on it, and I keep these all together. So when I go to do a project, I just grab it. Basically, this will give me the scallop box with 1/8 of an inch-ish edge, and that makes finding the piece of paper that I want to use much easier, because I can take my box or my magic window here and then move it around and say, oh yeah, this will look fantastic, or, you know, whatnot. Now, I only need 2 of these on the inside, and then this piece is going to be 6.5 inches by the 3.5 tall. So I just need to find 2 end bit pieces and then a front. And, you know, if again, depends how fussy you want to be about this, but I find, you know, we make these boxes that are going to last a good long time, so you're going to want to make them look pretty. If I have all this great paper, I might as well take that little extra bit of time to mix and match and see what I want. So because some of this paper is vertical and some horizontal, and obviously the horizontal will fit quite nicely, I didn't make a window for that, but I can just sort of see how tall it would be. I would end up with a piece that sort of goes like that. I'm going to have to pick and choose and mix and match. So I'll do that, and then I'll be back. So my idea was to use my favorite paper, which is the poppy papers. And the only challenge, of course, is there is this box in the middle. It's one of those things, you ever find like when you art, the universe doesn't want to give you what you want exactly, and you have to it can't make it simple, or maybe that's just me. And again, first world problems. So I pulled out the bigger piece, but it's the same sort of thing. This box would be in the way, and the imagery is really big on these. That's why I kind of like this, was the imagery works better. But then I realized, let's use this as an opportunity. I have all those die cuts from the set, and I can easily make something that goes in here. I just like the scale of these ones better. So that's what we're gonna do. All right. So I'm going to use my little box die or box image just to see what is what and what, you know, what I get. I really like that in the corner, and I really like this up here. So that should work out nicely, and I will just cut those. So for example, I just trimmed off a little bit of the bottom of this piece. So it's 3 3/4 inches tall, and then 3 3/4 inches wide. And then I have these pieces that I can play with. So I've got my 2 sides and the 2 back pieces. Then I need to decide, of course, got it stuck in the box. Is there ever one of those days where nothing, it's like literally jammed in? Oh, nothing wants to work. And then you go, do people really want to see this? But I think maybe you do, because I think this happens to all of us. If I showed the perfect little video, you'd be like, oh, must be so easy. No, it's really not easy. I mess up all the time. Right. So here's my box. Here's my outside of my box. So normally you would bend the box like this. That's not what we want to do. What we're going to do is have, I mean, we still need to bend the box that way, because this is going to be the ends, and then we're going to meet in the middle. So I don't need these tabs. And to be doubly sure, I'm going to come in here, because I do this all the time. I have a great idea, and then when I cut all the paper out, I realize, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. So here's what's great about it. If you wanted this box to be wider, you could easily use the tabs and just adhere them there, and then you'd end up with a bigger box. So I'm just going to cut those tabs off with my handy dandy. You can use a pair of scissors because you already have the lines, or you can use a cutter. And actually, it would be easier to do that first, right? Or you could use because we're not going to see these, or you could use a craft knife and a mat board, cutting mat. All right. And I keep these because you can put words on them and create, word bands or word sort of raised words, which is fun to do. Of course, because, I have to keep everything. Who knows? I might need that little scrap of cardstock someday. All right, so there's my 2 pieces. Like this, and we're going to overlap them. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut my base, because my base will help me with placement. I'm going to make my base, I like this, pretty much this size, so it's going to be 7 1/4 long, and I will write this down. 7 1/4 by, so basically that little piece is 1 inch, so that makes it easy. So it's 5 3/4, and that gives me tulips. 5 3/4. So I'm just going to take a 3rd piece of mat board to do that. Okay, I use a guillotine cutter for this. You could also, again, use a craft knife. Okay, 7 1/4 by 5 3/4. Okay, and that's going to be my base. Right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along with my Easy Cut adhesive, mainly to show you how it works. So it's gonna fit. Basically, this is all. I like to take a scraper. This is called a score. I think it's called a stencil pal. I always manage to get some kind of dust in there or kerfufflery. Always, every time, no matter what. These are great to use, and we'll use this as a palette because, you know. And I can. Actually, the easier way is probably to stick this down and then trim it. And it doesn't really have to cover completely. There we go. And you can use whatever glue you like. I just find this is quick and easy. For that. All right. And then I'm going to peel that up. If you have trouble with this, a hot tip is to take your pokey hole tool and you can just slide it in between like that. Okay. Lost the lid to my pokey hole tool. So that is my base. And I'm going to come along and line up. The key is a corner and one side. You know, sort of like a corner and a side. And then it should line up fairly well. I'm going to distress the edges of that anyways. All right, so that's my base. It's probably easiest to come in and distress the edges. And I'm going to do that with Vintage Photo because why not? And I like to I like getting some ink on the edge first. The other thing is I want to ink this part, but I'll show you an easier way to do that. Using a Sharpie is a good way to do that too. Or you can use a dabber, but... And then it just makes it easier because you already have ink on the surface. Another thing you can do, and I don't mind if I get, you know, blotch that up a bit. It's fine. Another thing you can do is to, if you wet this just a touch, it goes really well. I hope you make along with me. This would be fun. You can get your supplies, see what you want to do, and then create step by step is a great idea. I do still have a little bit of overhang there. Of course, this is dangerous because this is the mat board. And then if I mess it up, I'll be not happy that it's not straight. But I'm going for it. Oh, I think I messed it up. No, it's all right. There's a little bit of a kink. Oh, well. That's why we distress. So I have these edges. So you can take your dabber and do this. The other thing you can do is take a Sharpie. And I don't think I have a brown one. I could take a black Sharpie and run it along the edge. You can also take a distress marker, especially if you have the same color. This is actually, but you get the idea. I just try to do it the fastest way possible. And so the Sharpie, because it has such a fat edge, it usually works well. But you can also do it this way. And actually, the better way would have been to distress the edges. Because see, my paper's in the way. It kind of overhung the mat board a bit. Being fussy. Can always come back and do that later. All right, so I've got my base. Let's not throw these away so I don't know where to find them again. I've got my base. So now what I want to do is just place, and the idea is so that I know where they're going to overlap. All right, so now I want to overlap these two pieces. What I want this piece to be 6 3/4. So I'll just put my ruler there, and I'll just have it come out to 6 3/4, and I'll just make a little mark. And I notoriously do this stuff and then have to redo it because I didn't measure right the first time or it didn't work out. So I'm going to make sure that's going to be my overlap right there. And then to be doubly sure, I'm going to bring in the stamp. Yes, that works quite nicely. Okay, so 6 3/4 across here. So I have a choice. I could trim this a little bit. I probably will do that, but I'm going to take my red line tape, and I have one that's open because I like to keep that one all nice and fresh. And so I'll just come across with my red line, and I'll just do a couple of laps. Of course, I missed the line. Missed the line. I think I probably need to eat something. It's like 4 o'clock and I haven't had lunch yet. You know how it is. You get on a roll and then forget things like food. Okay. So I can trim off that little edge. Don't really need it. All right. And then I guess for ease, I'll do the same thing at the same time on the back side. So it's basically 3 inches from this edge. That'll make it easier. That's 3 inches. It's really important that you press this tape down because otherwise you're not giving it anything to adhere to. Like if I just put it down like that and snip it, it's not adhered to the board. You need to press it into that board. Okay. Right, so I cleaned my desk off a bit. So I've got my double-sided tape, and it's just going to go like this. Does it matter if this is on the outside or this is on the outside? No, not really, because either way, you're going to have a lip. You know, you're going to have this decline either way, just whatever side, so it doesn't really matter. It just for ease, I put it on the same side. And again, I can double check and make sure my measurements are right. But before I do that, I want to stick at least my end pieces in. I can't put this part in until I've put my box together, but it would be easier if I put my end pieces in. For this, you can use whatever tape you want. You can use more of the double-sided. I find that I like using that for when I create bases. A lot of times what I'll do is I just take my ATG and I do the edge. Handy dandy ATG gun. And then I might do a swap in the middle. And then I take a glue stick and do that part. And again, there's no real right or wrong with this. I just want to make sure that it's kind of in the middle. All right. And that, you know, obviously my flowers are growing up out of the ground. So now I have a direction. Then I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Flowers up, butterflies up. And we're going to do that. So now I'm going to glue my pieces together. And again, the easy way with this is to take your pokey hole tool and you're just going to slide that in somewhere along the side. And then pull that up. Just like that. And I can line it up with that line because I'm going to cover that anyway. Although I do, before I press it down, I want to make sure it's, you know, somewhat flat. Looks pretty good. And then you're just going to do that with the other side. All right, there's my base. The base of my box. It's pretty good. Most of my boxes are not even, just to give you hope. Like you look at this one's under 6 3/4 and almost 7. So, and you can't really tell. I know, I'm showing you that. Can you believe that? All right, so that's that. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm not going to, you can do, I don't know, there's so many different ways. You know what I do? I do these differently every time with the idea of finding the perfect way. But then there's so much time passes in between making a second one that, you know, just, okay. So basically I'm going to glue that in there. And again, I can decide if I want to distress. What I'd like to do here to sort of cover up where that you kind of get that bump is to put washi tape. So I'll probably do that as well. All right, so I've got the insides done. And basically I just came along with my bone folder and worked them in. And I just went flat. I don't want to sort of make that crease, because that's one of the secrets to keeping it, you don't even notice it. If I were to push down against that, then I'd have a line. So I don't want to do that. And again, we can cover the top of it with some washi tape, but that's the last step. And now we're going to work on, what do I want on the outside? So funny thing, I had cleaned my desk off and now it's a mess again. This is why we always craft in a mess. So what I've done is I've pulled a couple of things. I've pulled some paper napkins, decorative paper napkins. I've pulled some strips. This was from a class I just taught. It was a junk journal class, and there was a kit, and basically this is like paper from catalog, old catalog type of deal. So I've pulled those images. Another idea is to actually grab some of those strips at the bottom of the paper, but we're going to add more into this. I've got an Italian dictionary and a book in Russian. I like using, different types of script and whatnot. The other thing you can do is newspaper. That's fun because there's all kinds of images. You could use magazine if you like. We are covering it with decoupage glue, so it's not going to matter. I have a Tim Holtz Ideology paper tissue. It's called collage paper. And then I did grab a couple of his linen tapes as well. We'll see. We'll probably want some washi tape as well. So what I usually do is just start out by, again, just grabbing a couple of supplies. I've been very into using foreign language notebooks and books lately, and it might be fun. Sometimes what I like to do is incorporate, find a word and then draw out the word. So for example, if I could find container or box, B-O-X. I'm looking you need to look in the English side of this. Bean. Fagiolo. No, this is not an Italian lesson. Box. Scatola. So yeah, let's do that. That would be fun. Let's just throw that in. Just to give you an idea. Try not to tear in half as I do that. Okay, and I can put those aside. I can also come in, and this is just the first layer. So there's other, I already have one of these open somewhere, but. So the idea is you just want to get some imagery down but create gaps where you're going to put other things for the first layer, because I am working in multiple layers. Now, when it comes to napkins, I did think it would be nice if I carried through some of the inside theme to the outside, and that's why I grabbed this butterfly and also the poppy, because of the poppies, even though it's kind of a bigger scale. When you're using a napkin, one of the things you want to do in order to make it translucent is there's layers. And again, this is where your pokey hole tool comes in handy. You can use pokey hole tool. The other thing you can do is use a piece of tape. And what you do, a piece of Scotch tape, and you just literally put the tape down somewhere in the middle and press it down, and then you do this. And a lot of times what it'll do, this isn't very strong, this has been used, but it'll pull up and separate. It'll just pull up the first layer, and then that's a good way to start it as well. And most napkins either have one or two. The nicer quality ones have two of these. This one seems to be a one. What this does is it creates a translucency. You can already see how translucent that is. I can see the image behind it. Now, this paper is good as well because you can stamp on it and create a tissued image to go through. So I've got that, and then I'll do the same thing for this. So what I do when I want my imagery is I'll take my box and I'll have an idea that I'm kind of laughing because I use the same butterfly on this, but maybe what I'll do, you know what, I'm going to use a butterfly from the kit. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just take some of the words because I love that writing. And oh, look, there's a postage mark. I'll use that. So what you're going to do, though, is just get an idea, rough idea in my head that I'm going to put a poppy here, probably have a butterfly over here. Okay, that's it. That's good enough for now because, you know, we build as we go, and that's fine. Then I'm going to take, in order to tear this tissue paper, what you do is you just take a water brush or just a wet paintbrush. I'm going to pick the flower that I want to use. And I'm thinking I just want it to peek off the image. Now, the other thing that we're doing, the idea is to cover this. Like, one of the things about making these boxes is you end up with this score line. It's inevitable because the box has to bend, so you end up with this line. If you don't like that, this is why this is such a great technique, because I can wrap over and we're going to cover that line as we build our layers. So I have a choice. I could do that, or I can wrap it over. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with putting some words that go over, and then because I like the idea of the poppy just being on the corner. Maybe I could do that and then just use the fold of the napkin as sort of a natural edge. I'm going to do that. And that's a good thing about these boxes. You can change your mind 57 times. So I am going to get some water, and all you do is sort of outline outside of where you want to tear. This just creates a better edge, and it makes the picture sort of melt into the background. Now here I have an overlap. I'm not worried about that. You can do it either way. You can include it, not include it. And then all I'm going to do is just sort of come in, and I just want to tear that. If I were to cut it, you can do that as well. But what ends up happening is, for whatever reason, you see the cut lines. Whereas with the tear lines, it just sort of melts into the background. So that makes it just has a nicer edge to it. And I think it's because you're tearing the fibers of the napkin. And what that does is it helps with the glue, it just sort of melts or becomes invisible. So there's my poppy. I can set that aside. And then I'm just going to randomly tear. Now I do know that I want that word. So what I will do is take a pen, and it should be a waterproof, because we don't really want it to, and I don't know if I am or not. We'll see. And I'm just going to do that so I remind myself, right? That's what I want. But I'm going to just tear this, again, somewhat haphazardly, like that. I can wrap that around the edge. That's a good idea. And again, that'll just help hide that edge. And if I want, what I can do is come in here and stamp that. I might do that. And so you get the idea. I'm just going to go through and tear. Doesn't have to be fussy. Doesn't have to be a lot of thinking. Although I tend to be an overthinker. So just to give you guys a heads up. So a lot of times I will think it right into oblivion, but you don't have to. And to be honest, once I get going on these projects, I think less once I get in the groove. I think sometimes too, when you're making a video, there tends to be more thinking than when you're just arting, or that's for me anyway, when I'm making a video. And I'm kind of new at the whole video thing, so that's probably part of it as well. Now, again, I want to keep some of those words because I'm going to do layers. And so the idea is to just create sort of that base. Like I might even want a piece of this. Just that can go on there like that. And maybe, oh, this is fun. It just has sort of a list, and the edges have it's been cut with the decal trimmer, or a torn ruler edge, it looks like. This is fun, a little. So you're getting the idea. I'm not being super careful with what I'm doing. These came from a stamp catalog, so it's kind of fun. Here I've got Europa, and actually this is a great idea because Eileen is doing postage stamps. So won't it be fun to have Cyprus, some postage stamp imagery. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to grab my decoupage glue back we are. I'm going to grab my decoupage glue. This is one of my favorites. It's Americana. I don't know why. I just like the water ratio. It works really well. And the other thing we're going to grab is one of those pieces of, you can grab the piece from the back of the Easy Cut adhesive and use that as a palette. So I'm just going to put a daub. This one happens to be matte. And so what's nice about that, if I were to use a magazine image, even though the magazine is shiny, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll pull out a magazine. Even though the magazine's shiny, because I'm putting matte on top, it's going to cover that up and give me a matte finish. So I'm going to take my box and I'm just going to start randomly gluing. Now the idea is, first of all, I do have a glue brush. It's a dedicated glue brush because you can kind of see how the bristles they get destroyed. So use a brush that's just for glue, and then that way you don't have to worry about, I'm guessing this goes this way. It's hard because it's Russian. Don't speak Russian. Only a few words. Nostrovia. And I'm just going to start gluing. Now you do want to do a layer of glue underneath and then a layer of glue on top. And that's so that you firmly adhere everything down. Because I don't know about you, but I don't really want bubbles in my project. And see how we're covering up the corners. And then as far as that goes, it doesn't matter because, again, there's going to be layers. So I might just come put that in there. So I'm just gluing round about the area that I'm covering. And again, I don't want to press into that. I kind of want to make it look like, you can see how I just did that. It makes it look like there's no real fold there. Just sort of hiding it. Keep it hidden, keep it safe. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Oh, that's going to drive me crazy now. What movie is that from? Lord of the Rings, I believe. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Oh yeah, I want to go over the corner, so I'm just going to, see, even I forget, and I've made these before. All that does is hide that seam. And you can see that I only have a piece of that stamp, but that's okay. It's going to be great. Now, these brushes tend to get to the point where you have a bit of texture from the bristles, and all you have to do is just take your finger, if you don't like the lines in it, and off you go to the races. Don't know where I want that exactly. Some of these images I want to put more on top as well. So you do have to sort of maybe think just a little bit, not too much, but because if there's, like, for example, that Europa stamp, I really would rather have that be in actual fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, because we're going to glue this to the base, you don't need to put stuff underneath it. Wrap underneath the bottom. There we go. All right. So just keep on doing that and building your layers. So I did decide that I was going to keep going all the way around, even though I might do the back of this mixed media. And I did want to show you the Tim Holtz tissue paper as well. So what I like to do with his is to put sort of the words, this type of thing, underneath layer, but like the B I would put on a higher layer. So you can decide where you want it. And, you know, you can also tear it to create a rough edge rather than having a smooth edge. And again, wrapping it around. So one of the things that's great about YouTube videos is you can pause this at any point, go backwards and forwards, but you could, so for example, you could watch some of this, get your supplies, pause it. You probably all already know this, but it's a great way to, I'm going to, you know, do some of this, and then you can just pause it, catch up, and then come back. So you're not watching me, although it might be very relaxing for you. I don't know. I know I'm feeling pretty relaxed. All right, I'll keep going. All right, so here's where I am at. I have my box, and I've come along and done. I still have quite a lot of open space, and that's okay, because I can always come back in and add where I am. But what I want to do also is put in some stamping. So I realized at this point that the video is too long, so I'm going to split it into 2 videos. So we will leave it here, and I will just see you in the next segment.